Welcome to the Authority File, the academic library podcast from Choice. Choice is a publishing division of the ACRL and the publisher of Choice Reviews and CC Advisor. This episode is brought to you by Credo. I'm Bill Mickey, the host of the podcast and the editorial director at Choice, and for this 4-episode series, my guests and I will be discussing how collaboration and information literacy factor into the first-year experience. These discussions are part of a longer series on the first-year experience that Credo is presenting with Choice. Next month, we'll look at some of the other components that help make a successful first-year experience program. But right now, and for the episodes that follow, I'll be joined by Ray Pun, a doctoral student in educational leadership at California State University, Fresno, Lisa Janicki-Hinchliffe, Professor Coordinator for Information Literacy Services and Instruction in the University Library at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and Laura Kohl, Director of Library Services at Bryant University. In this second episode, our discussion focuses on InfoLit, the first-year experience, and collaboration in practice, anchored by a case study from Laura, who describes how Bryant University developed an award-winning first-year experience program that deeply integrated the library into campus-wide student success programming. Okay, Laura, I understand that Bryant University took on a very interesting initiative to zero in on a few qualities or skills that define what it means to graduate with a Bryant education. And the library played a significant role in defining those skills and qualities. Could you tell us a little bit about what the program is and how the library got involved, and perhaps how you helped position the library to play such an important role?
Yeah, absolutely. Bryant University is a smaller institution, and so one of the nice things about that size of our institution is that we get to know each other quite a bit on campus, and so when different initiatives begin, people are definitely looking for partners kind of across campus. And so in 2010, Bryant was taking a look at their gen ed curriculum, and the university really wanted to bring in other folks. So they looked to librarians, they looked to academic advisors, they looked to other academic support areas, and sort of brought us together to start rethinking about the way we had our gen ed curriculum set up. And at that time, in a few years prior, there was this big shift in higher ed from this really content-driven learning to this learning outcomes sort of driven learning. And so we were hoping to get on board with that. So in 2012, we launched our first year experience sort of curriculum. It's called the Gateway Curriculum. It is made up of 4 courses, 4 regular full-time courses, and then one credit design thinking experience. And so those are sort of the components of it. And the library was able to be part of it just from being there at sort of that ground level. So we were able to be part of looking at what our gen ed was made of, looking at what was going on in higher ed, looking at what we really wanted Bryant students to be when they graduated. What were the skills that were the most important for these people who are going out into the working world? What could we say, this is the Bryant education, and sort of stamp them with that? Right. And so it was nice because also the library staff, we have a great staff that's very innovative and can sort of see how the librray can kind of make its impact on anything. It's pretty interesting. It's like, oh, there's this initiative happening with athletics. Well, the library can blah, blah, blah. And so we've definitely been a place where I think people are like, oh, that library's doing some cool stuff over there. Maybe they might have some ideas for what we're working on. And so that has been, a major help for us as far as getting our sort of word out there.
I'm wondering, during the initial phases of developing the Gateway program and everything, I mean, how much advocacy and what kind of advocacy or how aggressive were you guys in terms of being involved in all of this with the rest of the school? And, were you just at the right place at the right time, or did you really have to kind of position yourselves in a way that you all had a seat at the table with everybody else and sort of planning, the looking at the broader curriculum goals of the school itself?
So I'm going to say we were like half and half of what you
Okay.
said. So half of it was definitely like needing to advocate, and that half was really before we launched this, there we had a first year experience course that was a 1 hour a week class where the students met over the first semester, and there was a lot of student success kind of issues were discussed there. And at that point, we were trying to get into that class a bit more and saying like, oh, everyone should have like a library session. And there was some feeling of library fatigue, I would say, at that point, where
Really?
people were sort of like, you get the library in a lot of other places, and so we don't necessarily think we want the library here. And I think some of that may have just stemmed from past old school bibliographic instruction sessions that didn't necessarily relate directly to what was being discussed in class. It was just sort of like here's a whole overview of the entire library, no context, bang. So so there was some advocacy that needed to happen there. But then on the other side of that, we had librarians who were also helping to teach some of those sections. So with that commitment that we were showing by, saying that we had some expertise with student success issues, we had major interest in what was happening with our first year students, and then of course with these learning outcomes that were going to be coming down the pike. We did have some buy-in with people, and I would say that the person who's our assistant dean for student success, she was Lori Hazard. She was the person who was running that first year experience course before, and then ended up being one of the leads for the Gateway curriculum, and she is a big partner with the library too. So we had some collaborations and some connections and some networks that we were advocating for each other in those kinds of ways. So that was great.
Are your first year students great researchers? Let's be honest, the answer is probably no. Websites like Google and Wikipedia have spoiled users with convenience while flooding the information landscape with sources ranging from shoddy to outright duplicitous. Credo Online Reference Service can help. Its user-friendly interface gives students the convenience they expect, paired with the authoritative content librarians demand. Features like topic pages, the mind map, and real-time reference make it ideal for demoing the research process during instruction. Visit corp.credoreference.com for more details and to download the interactive Credo FYE guide, Practices for Enhancing Instruction, which features prominent librarians offering step-by-step activity plans and best practices. There's one thing I wanted to sort of go back and touch on, Laura, and Ray and Lisa, I'd be interested to hear what you might have to say. And that's, Laura, you mentioned, Bryant is a smaller size school, and so they're, sort of a small town aspect where everybody kind of knows everybody else. But Ray and Lisa, I'm wondering if you might weigh in on what Laura just described. How might a library at a larger institution who may not be benefiting from the closer relationships they naturally would have based on the size of the institution, perhaps, how might they kind of go through this same process that Laura has described?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was still thinking about what Laura was saying before and how I've worked in smaller institutions and bigger institutions, and I totally agree that in the smaller context, obviously you can do many activities, and there could be a level of fatigue and even burnout in a sense of, you're just seeing the same kind of role from the library, but coming out from this sort of a narrow approach, meaning that when the stakeholders in the smaller institutions, they work with libraries, they see more flexibility and they see more of that, but then it's sort of like it takes away from the library itself, considering the library is also a small team and small staff. So there is increasing demand for new engagements and new collaborations. But at a bigger institution where I worked at Fresno State, I definitely see that it was important to constantly communicate and break this stereotype that the library has just these kinds of resources, these kinds of services, and we can't do anything more than that. And it's interesting because the library itself has its own legacy and institutional history and practice and relationship with different stakeholders, even before the librarians who are actually making these pavements, these new interactions coming in, and have to sort of redefine the role of the library. And that requires a lot of work too. So I feel like I have to probably think a little bit more as I'm thinking about your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lisa, anything you wanted to add, or?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing because I think, it's often the case that we think about size as a dynamic, but I'd add to this what I hear, and in my own experience, librarians do have an advantage if they can leverage it, which is that ability to be in multiple spaces and places. And once you make those connections to, we're helping out with this program and that program and this program and that program, you have to get strategic, right? Because you can end up with it feeling like library fatigue, as was mentioned. But alternatively, you can create sort of a threading through, or a quilting, or weaving, choose your metaphor, where sort of the library is part of just the life of these programs. And I think that's really powerful. And one of the things I think I have found in my own career, regardless of size of institution, is the power of presence. So librarians volunteering to serve on these committees, and then honestly getting the work done. Because we all know in volunteer organizations, in many ways, whoever is producing has that strategic ability to shape the initiative. So I think this example at Bryant is just a fantastic case study of that.
Yeah. So Laura, are you seeing parallels here with what Ray and Lisa are saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would say Ray talking about breaking stereotypes was one thing. So that was where I was saying the library fatigue was for, folks outside of the library, and for us to be able to say, we're doing things differently now. The proof is in the pudding. Let us come and show you, and then let us partner and let us tell you how we can work together. And so that's where we started to see then the weaving of things like Lisa's talking about. So absolutely getting to, break those stereotypes and then kind of reinvent ourselves and be able to get that sort of linkage through, and definitely presence on committees and those kinds of things happening for sure.
Right.
It certainly does take a village. Like Lisa saying, and Laura, it takes everybody on board to really support each other and strategically support the library, and being a part of different committees and programs, and really being present and showing that the library is just not necessarily just ubiquitous or everywhere, but more like very supportive, engaging partner for all these activities.
So Laura, part of the programming there is a summer bridge course that I think, if I'm correct, that incoming freshmen would take the summer before they start at Bryant. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what that course is like, and the skills that it's having the incoming freshmen develop?
Absolutely. So this course is actually a sort of direct product of this change in the Gen Ed curriculum. So because there was the first year experience course that had happened before, and then we were sort of moving all those student success components into the gateway curriculum along with the other learning outcomes. Now we're looking at content, learning outcomes, and then adding student success components. We saw after the first year or so that there were some things that weren't being delivered to those first year students in a consistent way. We're asking a ton of our faculty to be able to do all of that. And so this was a collaboration between folks from academic affairs. The library at Bryant actually reports to information services. And so academic affairs folks, we had people from academic computing, and then folks from the library getting together and saying, it was the brainchild of Phil Lombardi was the first person who said, there's a school that has students learn about Blackboard before they arrive on campus. And it was like this aha moment where we started to go, wait a minute, there's a lot of stuff that we could actually share with the students before they arrive on campus. And we spent a lot of time thinking really carefully about what those kinds of things could be without having to be, here on campus in the context of the campus. And so we focus on things like the shift from, communication with teachers in high school to how you deal with faculty members. We talk about joining a scholarly community and how you become part of the, conversation. We talk about, they do have a Blackboard section, getting to know Blackboard. The whole course is delivered through Blackboard. Mm-hmm. And then we have a library module, which was not there in the first, the first or the second iteration, actually, but that did come later. So they get to know just a little. It's like a quick video of friendly people in the library and how how we can help. And then we actually have a first year information literacy assessment that we start there as well. And then academic undergraduate advising module, in later iterations, a student life module. So there's a lot of different pieces that go in there. And the students take it. It's launched to them August 1st. They have to complete it by the first day of classes. They bring a certificate of completion to one of their courses in the fall, and then it's worth a percentage of their grade for that semester to complete that course. Yeah. Okay. And it's great because it's open to them all year long. And what happens is, although they have to complete it, they can always go back and look at the resources. And additionally, the assistant dean for student success is the instructor, quote unquote, for that class. And so she messages to the students throughout the entire first year, hey, you might be feeling like this right now. Here are some strategies to try. You might have research papers coming up. Go see the library. So those kinds of things happen. So it's the bulk of the work for the students happens in August, but they can use it throughout their entire first year.
So you mentioned the program is iterating and developing as you kind of look at, I guess you go through some assessment after each of the components are done. And I'm wondering how you are iterating on all of this, and are you including all of the faculty that have been involved along the way and other participants? And if so, how are you sort of navigating and managing that assessment period?
Absolutely. So the course is self assessed. So as the students move through the modules, they have an assessment that happens automatically in Blackboard through each section. Okay. And then at the end there is a survey that we give to the students asking them about, what different modules they enjoyed the most, which ones they felt like helped to prepare them for college more, things like that. So we get that information from them. Additionally, while the course is pretty much self-assessed, there are some pieces that we pull out and we can use to sort of do some intentional work with first-year students. So there's a module that has the students take the locus of control survey, like a self-assessment. And so we've done some interesting work with our OPIR office, our institutional research office, looking at sort of GPAs and relationships to locus of control. And so that's been an interesting thing where, we have some more work happening there. But as far as iterating the actual course itself, we look at the survey and then we do reviews with what are we seeing in the classes? What are the issues that might still be coming up with the students that we've been trying to address in the course? And we do that work each year. We pull in faculty as we can. We have a retreat each June where all the folks who teach in the first year curriculum come, and that's where we do a lot of brainstorming, thinking about how we might iterate the course. As you can imagine, we have lots of people who want to be in the course, like, oh, it'd be really great if we could, message this to the students during this course. So we're very, very, explicit about what stuff needs to be here, what things can wait until they get to campus, and things like that. So we make sure that we're keeping it, the message pretty pure in the course.
You just heard from Ray Pun, Lisa Janicki-Hinchliffe, and Laura Kohl. This concludes the second of our four-part series on how collaboration and information literacy factor into the first-year experience. This episode was brought to you by Credo. Be sure to join us for the next episode where my guests and I take a strategic look at collaboration, why it's such an important part of first-year experience programming, and how libraries can build sustainable models going forward.
Really looking at holistically the library's role as being a key component, key collaborator in building support and enabling these kinds of opportunities and projects for faculty to support students.
Find all of the episodes of The Authority File on your favorite podcast app or on our website, choice360.org. Just click on the librarianship drop-down. On choice360.org, you'll also find information on Choice's entire product platform, including Choice Reviews, CC Advisor, Choice Webinars, resources for college libraries, our white papers, and a whole lot more. A great way to keep up with the Authority File is to join the Choice Authority File Facebook group, which you can access via the Choice Reviews Facebook page. As a member of the group, you can give us feedback, suggest podcast participants, chat with other listeners, and submit new topic ideas. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.